Bills Mafia, what's going on? Tonight, we're going to be talking with Joe DeRosa, about the New England Patriots, the upcoming matchup, and what we think could happen. Let's get it. What's going on? Bills Mafia, happy Thursday. How you guys doing? Good evening. Welcome to Buffalo Late Night. I am your host, Thomas DeLoss. Welcome to Buffalo Late Night on the Cover One Sports Network. I am truly glad that you've joined us here tonight. You have chosen us instead of watching whatever nonsense is going on Thursday Night Football. So, hey, cheers to you. I'm glad. Again, I'm your host, Thomas DeLoss. You can find me on Twitter right there at the Thomas DeLoss. Again, thank you for tuning in, or if you're listening on Spotify, happy Friday to you. You can find our show free on all social media and streaming platforms, including Spotify and YouTube, or however you choose to pod. We are free on all of them. If you are watching on Twitter right now, hop on over to our YouTube page, join the conversation. We would love to have you. Also, guys, want to make sure that you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page. Hit that notification button as well. It'll let you know every single time any one of our Cover One shows are live. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of us. We got some good content going on right now. I know it's been a weird week, but hey, make sure you're tapped in. Also, guys, we are officially in New England Patriots week, which as of the last couple of years has been a fun week for Bills fans, Bills Mafia, everything included, because it's a week that we can beat the crap out of a team that beat the crap out of us for 20 years. Going along in that message, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed to Cover One Pass. I truly appreciate you guys. Cover One Mafia. Absolutely. Truly appreciate you guys subscribing to the Cover One Pass. We, the one thing I will say about all of us here at Cover One is we put a lot of time, effort, and a lot of very intensive research into making sure that we provide you guys the best of the best coverage every single week. You guys know we deliver. We have the best content creators, the best shows. If you want to support us, do that. That would be the way to do it. We do have a fantastic guest tonight. As you guys saw, Joe DeRosa will be joining me. He is on his way back. He'll be here anytime now. But before I get into that, I actually got some injury stuff, and I might as well start the show off this way because, golly, the injury report is a little ridiculous. If you don't know who to tap into for injuries, check Banged Up Bills. You go to bangedupbills.com. You can find him on Twitter at bangedupbills. To be honest with you, if you talk about any type of injury report, you can find him with Joe Marino on Locked On Bills. He makes his appearance all over the place, specifically here at Buffalo Late Night. So I'm going to read you what I got because, unfortunately, Dr. Kyle Trimble, Banged Up Bills, because he has children just like me, he isn't able to be here because he's putting them down for bed. So I'm going to read you what I got from him. Josh Allen, minor concerns about the accuracy heading into this game, but no issues with playing. Obviously, we saw that shoulder injury when he kind of fell awkwardly at Oliver, the big unknown. Nothing on film suggested turf toe. Could be a muscle strain, or if he got stepped on. Friday's practice will have to determine what things look like for him. So we're going to find out a lot tomorrow. We heard from Coach McDermott a little bit. He expects Oliver to be there tomorrow for practice. If he does go for tomorrow, he'll be good for Sunday against the Patriots. That's a big one. Ed Oliver has been a monster to start the season. Quentin Morris suffered a high ankle sprain 4 plays before his game-winning touchdown. Won't play. Misses next week, too. It's an unfortunate loss, but it looks like we're getting Dalton Kincaid back, so that's a big-time plus. Damian Harris working through concussion protocol and recovering from that hit that sent him to the hospital as precaution. First up, prayers up to Damian. Glad that he's getting better. Damian and his, I believe, wife just found out they are they're expecting. So big thanks for Damian, but glad he's healthy. Glad he got out of that unscathed. And then all other guys look all right to play. Greg Rousseau, Dawson Knox. Injuries are going to linger for a while, but who knows what kind of impact that'll have in performance. Obviously, we know Greg Rousseau has been kind of playing through some stuff. Leonard Floyd's been playing through that ankle injury. It's just kind of a work in progress with a lot of these guys. For Patriots, a lot of unknowns. Plenty of injuries are chronic in nature. A lot of these happen in practice, unfortunately. I don't know if you guys saw, but 20 different players for the Patriots, they were out from practice, so that's tough. In regards to them, I don't expect Keon White to practice, to pass protocol in time to play. If Juju Smith-Schuster and Demarion Douglas get a full practice on Friday, they can play coming off their concussions. Most of these guys will be questionable, and I expect to play. I'd watch the offensive line ones. Onwenu, Strange, Riley Reef, Andrews. Andrews will play through anything, though. So, guys, obviously getting into really all of that, this is going to be a game of musical chairs. The one thing about the Buffalo Bills right now is there's so much going on injury wise. There's a lot of rotating, a lot of getting guys in. You know what you guys are talking about, Dorian Williams. Man, what a job he's done. You lose Matt Milano, an all-pro weak side linebacker, though he is basically the face of that defense. And Dorian Williams steps right in alongside Terrell Bernard, who has been a revelation this year. What Leonard Floyd has done working through that kind of foot ankle injury that he's dealing with. Greg Rousseau coming back. The secondary has been just an absolute disaster with so many injuries we've seen. Obviously Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer on the back end of their careers are, still hampered with a lot of different things, all different kind of work in progress type of situation. So this game is going to be huge to see how you can get through. Previous to last year, the Bills were the team that was, quite frankly, able to not have to worry about injuries. They were very healthy. The big talking point was they had that preventative health building. All the workouts that they have everything that's advanced. Basically advanced in science and medical, sports science stuff. Everything that you can think of, the Bills had it. Now it seems like a lot of that stuff they're snake bitten the last couple of years. So working through some stuff, if they can get past this and, kind of work their way through injuries, we just got to get to the back end of the season relatively healthy. I'd rather these injuries come in now than later, but hey, what can you do? Before Joe gets here, what I'm going to do is we're going to hear from our guys, Greg Tomsett, Aaron Quinn. We're going to talk about the Cover 1-1 pass.
Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One Pass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
You heard the guys right there. Make sure you guys go ahead and sign up for that Cover 1-1 pass. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, truly, what is going on with my screen? Why am I so small? We've been working through a lot of great content, trying to get everything right for you guys. We truly, truly, truly do appreciate signing up for Cover 1-1 pass. But without further ado, the man of the hour, the guy joining me tonight, saving my butt. We have the host of the Under Review podcast, my buddy, the guy that really started a Cover One together, Mr. Joe DeRosa. Joe, what's going on, brother?
Mr. Thomas, how you doing? I appreciate that intro, man.
Of course. We're doing okay. Everything has been, it was a beautiful day here in Western New York. I don't know how it was in New York City. Joey's a New York City guy, but Man, I wore pants to start the day and I was wearing shorts to end them. I couldn't have been happier.
Yeah, man, it's a pretty nice day, pretty nice weather all in all over here. You started out with a fall day. It kind of gets a little warmer, but I'm cooped up in an office for 8 hours, so AC basically feels like fall to me. So I'm still in pants, actually.
Well, Joe, let's get into tonight's conversation. Before we talk about the actual game coming up this weekend, I want to hear your thoughts. And I know it's not the most fun game to talk about, but let's talk about the Giants and Bills game first off. What are your thoughts on that game coming out of it, kind of heading into this week, and what's your kind of high level overview of what happened?
Of what happened, I'll say this. The Giants offense, despite the injuries, it's a weird situation when you play backup quarterback and backups, because on paper, everyone's going to say, well, we should roll them. And, defensively, it didn't feel like it, but they really did. They still had 3 sacks. They still held them for a long time of that game. First half, 6 points, ending up to 9 points. So it was a lot of yards gained, but I thought the defense played that game pretty well, and McDermott's guys were buzzing, and a couple of big plays here and there didn't break the Bills' defense. Offensively, that first half was quite sloppy, and second half, I thought the offense actually pulled a couple of nice drives together, and while it wasn't a sexy showing, it felt like there was improvement and a recognition of, at least in some aspects, things that they could do better and were doing better. So going off that game, it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And I think that Giants defense deserves some credit too, but I'm still optimistic about the rest of the year. And I honestly think this is the start of a very big role for the Bills in a good way.
Yeah. The tough part is, and Bills fans are emotional, to say the least. And I'm a Bills fan, right? Like, so when I say stuff like this, it's not to take my shot. We're all Bills fans. We've all been through. We all went through the drought years. I mean, everything. I'm 25, 35. Hello, 35 years old, and I wasn't quite old enough to remember the 4 Super Bowl losses, but I know all about it. Right? We've all been through it. We know what this stuff does to us, and those type of games are tough. Those are games that make no one feel good, because damn well going into that game, the Bills are the better team. And it's not close, quite frankly. And so when you see that happen, knowing all that they have with Josh Allen being everything that he is, it's tough. But what I will say in regards to that game, I'd rather get that stuff out of our system now, early in the season, work through that stuff. Like, because that's why, to be honest with you, I'm glad that the Jaguars game was so early in the season. Because to be honest with you, there is something to be said, and I mentioned this last time, for the travel stuff, for the fact of the jet lag, for it playing a toll on the human body. If you don't believe so, if you ever traveled from California to New York or back and forth, or from New York to overseas, the physical toll it takes on your body, especially when you're for 60 minutes exerting yourself, probably more than you ever will, and then expecting them to follow it up a week later with the same performance and have no type of ailment to them. It's just the realization that they went through a lot in 2 weeks. They won 1 out of 2 games, almost won the one against the Jaguars, even with everything going wrong. I look at this Bills team and I say, hey, they're dealing with a lot right now. There's a lot of stuff that they're working through. There's a lot of injuries that they're trying to figure out. Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott are working their tail off my cat just closed the door. Working through a lot of things to make sure this team can make it for the long haul. So I'm not necessarily as disappointed as a lot of Bills fans are. I'm not as, everything's fine, the whole room is burning, type of scenario. I think the Bills are fine. I think that they are going to have these ebbs and flows. We saw the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs lose to the Indianapolis Colts last year.
And overtime against the 1-11-1 Texans team.
Exactly. This is not the NFL. When they say, okay, so I'm going to take one from Al Pacino. The NFL is any given Sunday. That's not hyperbolic, right? Like let's
no, not at all.
NFL is the type of sport where anybody can win on any given Sunday. You show up and you do things right and you make the least a lot of mistakes. It doesn't matter, how good or bad your team is. If you can outlast a team and play with less mistakes, you're probably going to win. And that's almost what happened for the New York Giants. But beyond all that, beyond the New York Giants and beyond what happened for this past week, this week we're going to be playing against the New England Patriots, a team that for 20 years took us to the woodshed and beat the living shit out of us every chance they had, quite frankly. So let's get into that matchup tonight. Obviously, this week we have McCorkle Jones, Bill Belichick heading in the New England Patriots. We're going to Foxborough. It's a big-time AFC matchup, the third so far this season, so another very pivotal game, even against a team that is really, really not very good. What are your immediate feelings about this matchup, Joe?
I'm pretty confident in it. And I had, I didn't really say about my confidence level last week because I did have some lingering suspicions because of Dable, because of Wink Martindale, and I think that factor added into a lot of what you saw. I have a lot of confidence for this week, and it's for a few reasons. The first being, while we might be a little banged up and have some injuries, the Patriots are even worse. They had 20 players reported yesterday on their injury report. They are likely, at least as it seems right now, not going to have Uche for that matchup. I know Stevenson's playing, but Keon White's hurt. Obviously, they lose Matthew Judon and Christian Gonzalez for the season. So it's tough for them because I feel like when they even have fully healthy defenses, I think the Bills have matched up incredibly well because Belichick really is very stubborn with how he attacks the Bills offense. And the Bills are usually pretty good at deciphering it and getting through it. I think the pass rush this week for the Patriots, it's always going to be a good, respectable unit. It's at its best, obviously, when you have your dynamic edge rusher and Judon and you have Uche to boost it. If Judon's out and you don't have Uche and you don't have the rookie that they just drafted, who's been playing very well, I do think that their pass rush is going to take a hit, especially what has been rated as the best offensive pass blocking unit in the league in the Buffalo Bills line. So I think couple that in with the fact that Josh Allen has just attacked the Patriots defenses post Brady really well. And I don't see it being close. I think, like you said, Thomas, they've gotten some ugly games out of their system. They won an ugly game, right? So they have something to build off of. And while they had a lot of execution problems, they put together in the second half of the Giants game, 3 really well-sustained drives. Not 3 well-sustained, 2 well-sustained drives, and a third drive that ideally, assuming Knox can put, or Allen can put that ball in a slightly better spot, probably ices the game. So I am left encouraged. I think the Bills' rushing attack is going to have a big game. I think, bringing Kincaid back, being able to run out of 12 personnel, as well as, have that established passing offense again is going to help. And again, it just doesn't matter who you put on Stephon Diggs. And I know people are upset about kind of overfeeding him. It doesn't matter. He's always burned the Pats. He's always found ways to get open against them. And Dorsey last year had great game plans for the Patriots that I think he's just going to have again this year. So I personally, I'm pretty confident, man. All vibes considered, I'm looking forward to this matchup.
Well, first off, by the way, for Bills fans saying that, Stephon Diggs is getting the ball too much. Listen, you can't have it both ways because I'm fairly confident. I've heard almost every Bills fan saying that Stephon Diggs needs to get the ball more. And now that he's getting it more, it's wait, pump the brakes. He's getting it too much. Listen, you go to the best teams in the NFL, the teams that have been successful for the longest time. You know what they do? They feed their star players. Mm-hmm. And to no fault of his own or really Josh's own, they're going to him. And guess what? Stephon Diggs is not only having the best year of his career, he is on pace to potentially also, not just Tyreek Hill, get to 2,000 yards receiving.
Crazy.
Which no other Bills receiver has ever done or come close to. And then on top of it, this would potentially catapult Stephon Diggs into a Hall of Fame career conversation already. Stephon Diggs is absolutely everything to this team, and you get him the ball. Yep. And then you know what you do? You find the ways to get everybody else the ball afterwards. If you want to criticize other people, you need to criticize the other receivers that need to literally polish their game and get better at what they're doing. There's a reason Khalil Shakir is not getting the ball. There is a reason that Dalton Kincaid is getting worked into the offense. He is a rookie. There's a reason that people keep criticizing Dawson Knox. He needs to clean up his game and not drop very, very pivotal catches, right?
Mhm.
But don't criticize the one guy who's doing everything right for this offense, the one that is legitimately carrying this entire team. But
Mhm.
let's move on to with the Patriots and what this matchup is. If you look at their team, one of the main things that has been a real weakness to their team so far is their offensive line. You already have, I mean, you don't have Dante Scarnecchi, the offensive line coach, who was, I'm surprised he won't. I wouldn't be surprised if an offensive, position coach ever makes it into the Hall of Fame. If he's going to do it, or if there's anybody that's going to do it, he might do it. What he used to do for the Patriots is unbelievable. That is not what's happening on right now. The Patriots' offensive line is an absolute mess. It's injury riddled, and on top of it, their offense is just an absolute tire fire. Joe, what kind of impact do you think could this or this defense play into this offense from the New England Patriots? Do you think they could potentially have one of their better performances today?
So, real fast before I get to that point, I also want to add the Pats have statistically bracketed what wide receivers won this season very well. So I actually do think that, I think Diggs is still going to eat because he's been eating in every matchup. And I think the lowest tout he's had this year is 88 yards. I think this is a big opportunity for Kincaid and Davis too. I just wanted to throw that in there.
For sure.
Getting into that though. So this is the thing about the Patriots that I think backs them into a wall this season. A lot of teams that have been facing the Bills, and you saw it with Miami, even the Giants with Tyrod Taylor not holding it for too long, or at least when he learned he couldn't because he was getting hit. And you saw it with the Jaguars, and you're seeing it kind of how they're trying to mitigate the Bills' pass rush is getting the ball out very quickly. The difference with a lot of these teams, even teams like the Raiders, the Commanders, obviously Jacksonville, Miami, it goes without saying, is that they have these true vertical threats that are actually a part of that game plan where we can get the ball out quickly and eventually burn you, or have someone in the slot that we could kind of bail out on. And we could try to dump it off quickly until we can kind of hit you vertically and take advantage of that matchup. I don't think the Patriots have that element to them. Devontae Parker is good with contested catches, but Devontae Parker is not a burner. I mean, Thornton, I think, is healthy, and we haven't really seen much out of him. So maybe they try to take some shots with him. But I feel like the issue with the Patriots is they don't have the vertical component of their offense to hit you. And if you put pressure on Mac Jones, he folds. That's just what is known about him now. That's what you do. So really, man, I mean, their offensive line is a mess right now. It's really tough for them to just get any sort of sustained drive going. They had really bad performances over the past 4 weeks after what seemed to be kind of an encouraging start for them, despite going 0-2. I really just don't see a scenario where, Jones doesn't get hit at least once, or he isn't hurried up into making a mistake. And I think because of that, it's going to be really tough for them to get things going offensively. And again, it's any given Sunday, their offense could have a good drive here and there. Gesicki and Hunter Henry, assuming Hunter Henry can play, which I think he practiced today, that's still a decent tight end room. That could get you some yards, that could get you some touchdowns, but their line's in shambles, and this pass rush is going to make it very difficult for a timing West Coast passer like Mac Jones to have success for 4 quarters of a game. So I think it's going to be a very good matchup for the defense.
Yeah, and realistically, if you look at, and I know Bill O'Brien was supposed to be the guy that was going to bring back this offense and, potentially get Mac Jones right. If you look at what the Patriots are doing, it's nothing that's revolutionary. It's not an offense that really takes the top off of you. They don't scare you. Their weapons, they're relying on guys like Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, and Juju Smith-Schuster to beat you. Yeah, and that team is just, unfortunately, quite frankly, devoid of talent. Ramondre Stevenson, after his brilliant rookie season, has been just a guy by PFF standards. I mean, he is 30 out of 55 of any, graded running backs. And like I said, with the wide receivers, they're just not good. And then on top of it, if you look at who they have that they've brought in, like Tyquan Thornton, he's been terrible. Though, I mean, that's the biggest issue for the Patriots right now. And maybe we want to segue into Bill Belichick, and we'll talk about that real quick. The Patriots have been a mess in terms of putting talent on the board. They went through and they tried to double dip with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. We know we know how that went. Jonnu Smith now in Atlanta, I believe he is.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Hunter Henry's been okay, but never really lived up to that Chargers hype. And then the rest of the wide receiver core has just been that. And quite frankly, beyond that, they've mishandled the entire quarterback position. They should have put Bailey Zappi at the helm. Mac Jones has just been in a mess. They keep pulling him out of every single game and benching the guy. And then they bring in Will Grier. Who's to know if Will Grier will see the field, but they keep, obviously selling out for Mac Jones. My assumption is they're probably just trying to tank for any type of quarterback that could be better.
Yeah.
What do you think in regards to Bill Belichick right now he needs to do to potentially win this game? Do you think the Patriots can pull off this victory?
Well, like we've talked about, you can't sleep on any team, no matter how bad it may seem. I mean, all week we heard about this Giants rhetoric, right? And how it was going to be not even close. And it was very close. So, never say never. There's always an outlet that a team can beat you. It's just a matter of how many circumstances lead to being in your favor. And when I think about the Patriots and how they've played so far this season, and they've played multiple divisional rivals, they've played each of them tough, yes, but I do think that there was missed opportunities in both games, one with Miami missing a field goal, and as well as I do believe they had like a missed touchdown in that game. And then that was also when their defense was fully healthy. And the Jets, I mean, Zach Wilson offense never beats New England's defense. The Jets are just historically owned by them. So I think any given Sunday, you got to apply that to anything you look at matchup wise. And I think it matters. But when you talk to me about what the Patriots are dealing with right now, as far as their line, as far as their situation, and you had to ask me what I could see happening, I think at its worst, the Bills will play down to them. But I don't think they have the firepower to pull away or hang tough if the Bills figure their offensive rhythm out. And I think that this is a game where the Bills figure it out very quickly. Again, like, the Patriots could set pressure at you. They could try to do that all game long. They could try to bait you into making mistakes. Allen seems to play really disciplined ball against a Bill Belichick defense. And I think if you apply, all of these past matchups to the same structuring defense that they have now, that Allen has been historically good in, I just don't see that changing. And I just don't see them outlapping the Bills for 4 quarters. Could they give us half a game, 3 quarters? Sure. I really think this is a Bills get right game, and I think they're going to win it big.
Now, in regards to that, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills and what's going on with them. Obviously, in the secondary, you got quite obviously a carousel or round robin of who's going to be in there. What are your thoughts on Kyer Elam so far? Because based on what we've seen, it's been kind of a roller coaster in terms of how he's played. I don't want to say they mishandled things per se, but there's obviously been some serious concerns in regards of he seemed to do okay at the end of last season, and then all trust went out the window. Training camp, he got passed again by Christian Benford. Dane Jackson was the guy behind. What do you think the situation is in a corner coming into this game, and who should get the starting nod? Is it Jamarcus Ingram? Is it Kyer Elam? I mean, what do you think that they do?
I think it's still Kyer. I think it's Kyer and Christian Benford, and I'll tell you why. I think Kyer Elam he's had bad reps and he's had some decent reps. And I think you have to kind of roll with the first round development. I think when you saw last season going into this training camp, he obviously had a poor showing in training camp and he loses the job to Christian Benford and Dane Jackson. Oh, Dane Jackson's healthy or is likely going to play by. So I think it's actually going to be Benford and Jackson. But if you had to, include one behind them, I think Kyer Elam has to get his reps in at this point. I think we're too thin at cornerback to not allow him to play. I think the luxury of letting him sit and get reps in practice is over. And I think given the opportunity he's had some ugly reps where he's gotten burned. I know Calvin Ridley was just absolutely dismantling him, and he was playing a bit soft on him, but still, I mean, just taking the bait on Ridley's route running, which is very difficult to do. It's a testament to how good he is as a receiver, but he kind of looked like he had no idea what was going on when he was in those one-on-ones. But then there's some quality Elam reps in pass coverage and run defense when you look at it on the back end. I mean, in the end zone, he had a couple of nice reps in coverage. He's there in the running game from time to time. So there's flashes of his development that make me think he's okay to have as depth. And I'm fine with keeping him there. Again, like, we have to look at it in kind of the perspective of, like, it's grandiose to think that Jamarcus Ingram could come in and play at a level that's higher than Kyer Elam. However, I think that Elam has better traits. I think Elam is a guy you took in the first round to try and develop, and I think this is the opportunity to make him develop, and he's getting game reps, and he has more game reps than Jamarcus Ingram at this point. I say he deserves to keep his 3 spot, because obviously Dane and Benford are going to take the 1 and 2, and just let him get those reps, let him cycle in and see what you got with him. I've been not impressed with him, not out on him. I think he's just a young guy that's figuring it out. And hopefully as the season progresses, we see a slow, steady increase to where he can just be good, like just be fine. And that's fine by me for now.
Right. And I think a lot of what people need to realize with a lot of these guys, especially in the NFL in general, until the story is written, a lot of these guys, you have to think they have the weight of the world on their shoulders. They are trying to not only work through the physical side, but the mental side. And the mental side sometimes is even harder than the physical side because and these guys are not, this is not 1995. Most of these guys have social media. Most of these guys are reading exactly what is said about them and hear all these pretty awful things that are said about NFL athletes nowadays. And they have to compartmentalize all of that and still show up on the field and not make mistakes against the best of the best in the entire world. All the while still trying to get reps in practice and then translate that into a game with little to no exposure. Yeah. And the thing about it is, practice is one thing, but they're not live darts. Those are not live bullets. That's not a real game. It doesn't give you the same feel, speed, and understanding of how things are going to flow. So for Kaiir Elam, a lot of, like what you were saying, Joe, needs to happen is just needs to be there. I mean, look at Dorian Williams in his first game. Everybody's like, oh boy, it's real fast. And then
He's been good. He's been good, man. Yeah, sorry. I just had to bring it up. He's been good.
No, he has. Dorian Williams has been great. And a lot of what it is, and they've even said it, is a lot of times it's getting ready for the speed and understanding of how fast things are going. And for a guy Dorian Williams has, I'll be honest with you, has an easier job than Kaiir Elam. And that's not to downplay what Dorian does, because Dorian's job is very difficult. But Dorian diagnoses in front of him where Kaiir has to diagnose alongside of what's going with him. He has to run full speed and try to figure out when to flip his hips, when to keep his head downfield, when to look upfield, see the wide receiver's eyes, all those things. And on top of it, make sure he's not getting too handsy for a guy that is a man corner who pretty much primarily plays a very physical style of defense. All those things have to go on at the same time and not expect any errors. So, the problem is there is a weird mentality with Bills fans to automatically put the cart before the horse. And when it comes to Kaiir, I think a lot of what needs to happen is you just got to let him get there. Not every first round pick is an immediate like that. And the problem is there's some weird misconception that first round pick should automatically go in and be very successful. And it's just not the reality of the situation. I think Kaiir will get there. Look at Terrell Bernard. Terrell Bernard is the perfect example of a guy that just needed time. Not that he was bad last year, but when you saw him in short order, people were like, now look at him. At him. Terrell Bernard is potentially the best defender on the Bills team. Potentially. Like, that tells you everything you need to know what he's doing right now. Or better yet, I got one even better. AJ Epinesa. If AJ Epinesa isn't the poster child for shut up, wait and see, and I don't know what is, because what AJ Epinesa, and maybe we want to talk about what's going on with this defensive line, what AJ Epinesa has done this season, obviously it's a contract year, so there's something to be said, but what AJ Epinesa has done so far needs to be talked about. The kid has been unbelievable. His stat line is off the charts. Yes, he only has 4 sacks, but what he's been able to do to impact games has been unreal. I mean, he literally wrecked the Giants game. He damn near wrecked the Jaguars game. I mean, the guy was all over the place. And that's with the fact that we're still not even having Von Miller back. Greg Rousseau's working back. Leonard Floyd still has a foot injury. Joe, what are you thinking about this defensive line, the prospects of what it could become, what you've seen so far?
It's been so good. It's been good on pretty much all facets. And even with losing Daquan Jones, which I think it hurts, it's still such a deep and good unit, especially at the edges. I mean, you talk about the fact that Von Miller's ramping back up and he's had better quality reps each of his 2 weeks. And you've seen kind of a slow acclimation back into the speed. And I think, give him a couple more weeks and you'll actually see Von Miller of old start to creep up. AJ Epinesa has had a coming out party. Well, that's kind of a strong term because he actually had 6.5 sacks last year as depth. I mean, that's what you want from a DE4. And it seems like he's just building off that, and he looks aggressive and he's using his length, which I really like seeing because he's probably got I'd say outside of Groot, he might have the longest wingspan on the line, and he's using it. That's the thing I love about this line is the way they're getting their hands up, the way they're kind of manipulating you, not just with the pass rush ability, but how they kind of try to DQ, fake you out, throw you off rhythm in any way they can. And that's just by using their limbs. I think you couple that in with a really savvy, good veteran in Leonard Floyd, who's just been so good this year and is getting sacks, getting pressure, being a force in the run game. Greg Rousseau goes without saying, man, he's a star. I'd pay him now. I think he's a bona fide stud. He's so good on the edge. He's so good at stopping the run, and his pass rush ability that complements that line beautifully. It's so nice to see. So the real only question I have is just, after last week we saw, and, Eric pointed this out, Ed Oliver kind of got thrown around a little bit. He had some good reps. He also had some bad reps in run defense. It happens, but can you kind of, make that other side of the that complementary D tackle have that kind of same, or at least replicate a good degree of play that you saw from Daquan Jones? Because if you can, this line has no drop off, but they've been exceptional in pass defense. They're leading. It's the most sacks in Bills history at this point, like on pace to be there, and the most through, I think it's week 6. So they're exceptional. And I think that's really the heartbeat of this defense. And I think their productivity makes the life of guys like Kyer Elam, of Dorian Williams, of Terrell Bernard much easier. And one final thing I do want to say, because I saw this comment earlier, to Jessica Tennis, Bills score 24 points, game is over. They won in Foxborough last year, scoring 24 points. It was 24-10. Checkmate. Sorry, I just saw that and had to point it out. But no,
I like it.
She's cool. I like Jessica. That wasn't any dig. I was just like, I was like, didn't they score 24? But yeah, D-line has been great. I'm very pleased with the pass rush. Run defense, listen, if it's not leading to touchdowns, I'm fine. I mean, I was getting kind of annoyed, but they made adjustments. Hopefully they could just be stout enough. That's really all I say.
Which Jessica is fantastic, by the way. But the defensive line and what they've been able to do is fantastic. Eric Washington, good shout out, Pops. Eric Washington has been unbelievable, which ironically enough, people were like, why would you? Because didn't Eric Washington get promoted to assistant head coach? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, Bills Mafia. I'm going to say this again. Patience. Relax. Stop putting the cart before the horse. There's been a lot of off-season commentary about this, that, and the other, and all of it has been so far unbelievably wrong. Terrell Bernard, unbelievable. Dorian Williams, unbelievable. Eric Washington, what he's done for this defensive line, unbelievable. I mean, let's really, if you look at what this defensive line is, Leonard Floyd has 6.5 sacks, and he's fourth in the NFL in sacks total for a guy that we got for $9 million in August.
Insane. He's so good, dude. It's unbelievable what a signing that was.
Yeah, I'll tell you. RJ, I will say, I don't think it was a waste of it. I think what it came down to is they were trying to figure out how to utilize him properly. I think the weight thing was an issue. I think they never should have messed with certain things, but I think AJ, it was a learning curve of getting him in a position at the right time. I think he is now in a good position. I think he's now getting into where he's supposed to be. A discount JJ Watt is that's giving a lot of credit.
I don't agree.
I think AJ Epinesa has been a product of taking the time to learn his craft, to get better, to understand using his leverage, to using his power, when to cycle, when to use that step, learning his twitch. There's so many different things that AJ's needed to understand. And coming from Iowa, he was good. There's nothing wrong with what he did. But the problem was he was going to try to usurp guys that he was just not there yet. I mean, realistically, Joe, go ahead. I know you're chomping at the bit.
I just AJ Epinesa was a back of round 2 pick. He was just our first pick in that draft. And that's not excusing it. I don't think he had a stellar first couple of years. I wanted more out of him. Absolutely. But man, at this point, look at your line and look at how he's playing in tandem of your line. And give credit to Eric Washington for that, dude. He's been the coach for these D linemen. And like, yeah, bringing in Vaughn definitely helps. He's still coaching them up. And honestly, you talk about the weight, like he had to put some weight back on and he's using it and using his arms, and he's playing incredibly well. And I just think like, I don't know, man. Like I get the sentiment about the first couple of years. I was in agreement. I didn't see a lot out of it, but man, he's been good. And I think like we really are just, we should be pleased with this play and give credit to the coaches that are getting him there. Really, that's just it.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to, and I mean, I think we are all at the mercy of overreaction sometimes, because a lot of these guys, it just takes time to get to where we are. And we live in a society, it's instant gratification. You want things now. It's, I want results as soon as possible. And a lot of times with these guys, one, they are human. Two, it just takes time for them to understand the NFL and the speed of the game and how things change. What people fail to realize, and this is something that I think maybe we need to talk about for a sec, when you look at the college game, 98% of the guys on the field will never see a football field beyond college. A lot of those guys are just college football players, and that's fine. And there's no this is not me talking badly of them, but they wouldn't last a modicum of a millisecond in the NFL. So these guys that do succeed are now playing against the 1% of the very, very best in the college game and expecting them to excel against that. And it doesn't always work. We've seen it. We've seen number 1 overall picks flame out. And then you see guys like Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, prove to the world that he can succeed. So there's no rhyme or reason or how things are supposed to go. And quite frankly, there's no one track about anything. Very similar to life in general, right? Like there's no one way to do things. Just because one guy did it this way doesn't mean it's going to work for another. Look at what happened. I think that if you look at Matt Milano, that should be your perfect example of not everything's the same. The guy was drafted out of Boston College. 5 games in, he took over for Ramon Humber. That's not the same for every guy. Like that's not the history of the NFL. I think if you look at the way things are going with the Bills, they're bringing up a cyclical type of situation where guys are working their way through, which is why we have great depth, and they're getting their opportunities, which again should prove to people that Brandon Beane is an unbelievable general manager, which first off, and I think Sal Capaccio beats the shit out of this drum, and thank God for it. There's a lot of narratives on Brandon Beane not being able to draft, and I don't know when we need to have a serious conversation about squashing that, because Brandon Beane again and 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 again proves that he is an unbelievable drafter. He's an unbelievable scout. He's an unbelievable he is just very, very good at his job. I am so overwhelmed with emotion talking about Brandon Beane because he is so damn good at his job, what he's been able to do, what he's proven to the fans over and over again. And on top of it, he makes the right decisions. He didn't trade Epinesa, which everybody was clamming for. He traded Boogie Basham. Let's
we even see him on the field? And by the way, like, did he? I didn't see or hear. Yeah, okay, but like, I didn't go back and like actually look at Basham reps. Like, was he there? I don't even was he active? I don't even know what was going on in that game because I definitely didn't hear his name called. So yeah, I agree with that, man. Brandon Beane. I think it's just it's something that I've always said. Like, you got to look at the draft in like multi-dimensional ways. Like, when they took Terrell Bernard, everyone was scratching their head. Why are we doing this? We already have Tremaine Edmonds. We already have Matt Milano. Like, his archetype is not that of Tremaine. It's not blah, 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 blah. It sometimes is development and the idea that your prospect will pan out in the future based on coaching that you trust in. And like with AJ Epinesa, they probably saw a guy who they wanted to see if they could make him cut weight because he had the length, and maybe with less on him, he might be this style of rusher that can kind of transition from power to finesse and actually be well. And it didn't work out. So he puts the size on. And look, it's working. And you might say, well, why did they even do that? Because they wanted to bank on the traits. And with Kyer Elam, it's kind of the same thing. And I feel like this is just the idea of drafting and the crapshoot. And also, like, for every bad pick that people claim, there's also a ton of serviceable ones or good ones right now. Like, look at the homegrown talent that exists on this team. outside of the signings, like outside of Floyd and Von Miller, Gregory Rousseau, AJ Epineza, Ed Oliver, Dane Jackson. He's hurt. Tre'Davious White, obviously, but you know what I mean? Matt Milano, Dorian Williams. Like, I could name this off. And I know this isn't what the show's about. I apologize, but you're talking about Brandon Beane. I just want people to just take a step back when they talk about draft analysis and talk about Beane's drafting. Look at it in comparison to other GMs around the league. There have been good drafts from other GMs and our contemporaries, and then very bad ones. And I think Beane just had one of his better drafts that's only going to pan to be even better as the season goes on. So that's all I wanted to say about that. I apologize.
No, he is a purveyor of talent, and he's very, very, very good at it. But before we go even further, let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. Ian, if you want to go ahead and throw that up. For Underdog Fantasy, Cover One is excited to once again partner with the most dynamic name in fantasy football, Underdog Fantasy. If you have your one home league and that one draft each year is not enough for you, then Underdog Fantasy is for you. All the fun of drafting your own players, but without the waivers and lineup decisions. Best ball drafts allow you to have all the fun of drafting your team, all the chances to win big with none of the week-to-week hassle. Use promo code COVER1 when signing up to make your first deposit. An Underdog will match that deposit up to $100. That's $100 in free play if you use promo code COVER1. Even better, Underdog's Best Ball Mania 3 contest is going to make 3 millionaires. That's right. $10 million in total prizes, $2 million to first, $1 million to second, and $1 million bonus to the team with the most regular season points. That is 3 chances to win $1 million. Sign up now using promo code COVER1 and take your chance at $1 million today with Underdog Fantasy. Guys, check it out. Use Underdog Fantasy. They are fantastic. Underdog is a unbelievable application. They have some great stuff. But aside from that, guys, you know, back to what we were talking about. This team is absolutely loaded up with talent, whether it's homegrown, like Joe said, or Brandon Beane having an incredible eye for free agency or trades. That's been proven over and over again. I think all in all, if you talk about what this team has been an amalgamation of success stories and the next man up. And I think if you're going to talk about what you want the best out of a team, like, I mean, look at some of these teams in the NFL and what's happened. They get decimated by injuries and there's nothing behind. There's nobody that can step up and play from behind. The Buffalo Bills, let's talk about the offensive line. Knock on wood.
Yep, hang on.
Knock on wood, they're healthy. But even if they weren't, they still haven't even tapped into the guys they have behind. I mean, they have Ryan Bates on the bench, one of the best swing linemen that you could possibly get, and they have him sitting there just collecting dust. They have David Andrews, a premium free agent signing that they bring in once in a while for 6 offensive lineman packages.
Oh, and I love those. So much.
It's ridiculous. I mean, and what talk about that? Osiris Torrance, a guy that was picked way outside of where he was supposed to be picked, has been an absolute stud, probably the best offensive lineman drafted this year. And then you look at the rest of the offensive line. Connor McGovern, fantastic signing for them. And then the rest of the offensive line has been, I mean, minus Spencer Brown and up and down, inadequacies, which is fine. But he's been able to be carried by the sum of his parts and not just himself. If you look at this team, they've been fantastic. They've been able to weather the storm. And that's really big because, again, let's circle back. We're going to loop this back to the Patriots. Look at what's going on with the Patriots right now. The Patriots are so strapped. There's so many injuries. They're dealing with so many problems. And then what it's really done is it's caused them to just get worse and worse and worse because Bill Belichick is a terrible general manager. The guy wouldn't know talent if it hit him square in the face. He got very lucky. Christian Gonzalez fell to him. I don't know why he wasn't drafted earlier. Should have been. Christian Gonzalez has been unbelievable for them, and he's a blue chip prospect. But look at what's going on with these teams. Look at what some of the teams in the NFL. Look at the Bengals. The Bengals have been a mess. Thank God they've been able to figure it out, but so many of these teams can't get it right because they just don't have what's behind them. Now you look at the Bills. The Bills have been able to withstand success because they've got guys. And at the end of the day, Kyer might not be perfect, but you know what? Kyer's a lot better than what you could stick out there in a moment's notice, and he's at least able to hold his own in most scenarios. I think what we really just need to be honest with ourselves and say this Bills team is very, very talented, but they've gone through some ups and downs. They've gone through some issues. And if you want a team to go through some issues, you want them to go through it early on where they can iron out these, any type of malfeasances or any type of, kind of issues that they might run into, so that later on when it comes down for playoff time, because the Bills will be in the playoffs, God willing, they don't have to have these things again. They already know what they've gone through. But let's finish this up, Joe. Let's talk about who are you keeping an eye on? What Bills players are you keeping an eye on in this matchup against the New England Patriots?
So I'll go offense, defense. To start on offense, there's two specifically, and that's Gabe Davis and Dalton Kincaid. I think that what I mentioned before about the Patriots is that they've had success against the team's number one. However, the wide receiver 2 or the second option has had a much better success rate against the Pats, better rating, more yards, really just okay, cool. She pointed now 9 defensive snaps and 10 special teams.
Jessica.
All right. Thank you for that. Because I did not have that, because I didn't know if we were going to get to that point. But I think that this is, again, as I mentioned before, I trust Stephon Diggs against any defense. I think he has the capability to find the soft spots. I do think that given what Sean McDermott has said, and one valid criticism is that they could spare to spread the ball around a little bit because it does open things up on the back end for Diggs versus having to force feed him in situations that are crucial. If the Patriots are going to try and take Diggs away, I think that opens a lot of doors up for other members of this offense. I think that opens doors up for obviously Hardy Sherfield, but I'm really keeping an eye on Gabe Davis on the over the top, trying to test their secondary. And I'm keeping an eye on Dalton Kincaid, who I think has had multiple routes this year where he's been able to get himself open. And you've seen him just not really get the ball in his way. Maybe it's a trust thing, which I wouldn't be surprised about, because I do think Allen does take time to build chemistry with receivers. The middle of the field is scary and dangerous. Therefore, you need to have full faith in the person there. I think when Cole Beasley came into Buffalo, I distinctly remember the first half of that season being a slow start for him, where people were wondering, when the hell is Cole Beasley going to actually start showing up? And he did, because that time developed. It started happening.
Right.
I think that we're in October. This is a great opportunity for Kincaid, clearing concussion protocol, taking some of the slack off of Knox, who's playing a bit banged up, and we could see what we get with him offensively. So those are my big two. I could make a case for everybody on offense, but those are my main. For defense, I am very curious to watch Elam again. I just want to see how he fares against another receiving core that isn't nearly as talented as the likes of Miami or some of the later on stretches that you'll see this year. I just want to see how he does in his reps, if he knows his assignment, if he's, any one-on-ones he might face, if he could play solid, sticky coverage. And another week from Dorian Williams, man. I mean, there was encouraging reps from him last week where you saw him kind of understand his assignment, be in the right spot, had a really good pass coverage rep on Saquon Barkley, really, really physical in the running game. And you're seeing him kind of shed those blocks and get into his spots, which I really have wanted to see from him, because that was kind of the question mark. I think Dorian is fast, physical, really, really high motor guy. And honestly, we've seen what McDermott's been doing with linebackers with those traits. I think that's awesome. And I think he's going to continue to improve week to week. So he's my other player to watch defensively amongst the others I mentioned.
Yeah, I think if you look at the defensive line, they're going to be incredibly impactful, especially, against a guy like Mac Jones. We've seen a bunch of passes batted down against him. And just in general, just the ability to rattle his cage. I mean, the guy, coming off of a rookie season where it was vaunted, he did very, very well. People were saying that he, was the best quarterback out of that draft. It seems like his processing has gone out of the way. It seems like his ability to diagnose defenses, to kind of settle into a game, to feel comfortable, has really kind of diminished. And even more than that, just his understanding of how to be a competent quarterback anymore has just not been the same since his rookie season. So if you're able to get after him early and often and keep him in the pocket, because the one thing about Mac Jones, he can run, he can scramble. We've seen him beat us with his legs before. If you can hem him in and keep him within the pocket, you can easily win this game. The other one I want to keep an eye on is Terrell Bernard. Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki are, when going, dangerous threats. Obviously, Hunter Henry's more of that inline tight end. Gesicki is just very similar to Dalton Kincaid, a really, really good pass catching tight end. If you can shut them down, you can shut down this offense. Their offense is pedestrian. They're not going to be, kind of putting anybody that's going to, it's not a world beater in terms of a wide receiver or anybody that they can put out there for skill positions. And then on offense, I think the one guy I'm going to be paying attention is James Cook. When James Cook is going, when he is running with a purpose, Josh Allen feels more comfortable. You're seeing the offense slows down for Josh. You're seeing that the offense gets in more of a rhythm early. I think that's something that they need to rely on, is getting James Cook going, getting him going early and often, and getting a heavy dose of him in getting the ball into his hands. I think getting away from that second and long run play up the gut is probably going to be a more successful trait to this offense. But just in general, having him do that and allowing the offense to matriculate down the field. And the other one is just Josh. I want to see Josh continue to progress. I want to see Josh continue to grow. You've seen him early in the season. Obviously, that issue with the Jets. That game was a mess. And then he's kind of gotten better. The last 2 games, he's looked really good, but the offense has sputtered at times. And I want to see him evolve with this offense, be able to, even when things are going wrong, try to find a way to elevate this offense and be that top tier quarterback that he is. And maybe sometimes if he needs to get out of the pocket and not be scared to run, we've seen countless times now where Josh has had the ability to run and he's chosen to throw the ball instead. And that's not to say that I don't think that's great. I think Josh protecting his body is paramount. I think it has been an impeccable evolution to his game, but there still needs to be that aspect of his game. Josh being a dual threat quarterback is what makes him such a dynamic and a dangerous threat every single week that defensive coordinators truly have to keep an eye on. Once that goes away, you're just worrying about Josh the passer, and it's a Josh the passer. This is not to downplay him. Don't screen grab my video and say that I'm saying he's a bad passer. Josh is a very good passer, but what makes him so good is his ability to get out of the pocket, scramble, and make you pay with his legs. So I think if you could see Josh continue to evolve, I think that's big. And I one thing I will say in regards to Dalton Kincaid, Josh said it himself, that relationship is going to grow. He's going to trust Dalton more and more. I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see Dalton grow. The other thing about it, guys, and I've said this before, I don't know if it was last week. I don't, all my shows kind of roll into each other. Dalton Kincaid is in top 5 all time for receptions for rookie tight ends. He is getting his. It's just not Sam Laporta.
Yeah, it's hard. I was just going to say, it's not like as opportunistic. It's more just like one thing that they were doing was really early down established with Kincaid. That's the thing too, Thomas. Like, they've spread the ball out in multiple games this year, and they've had vital, down-based roles for a lot of these guys. Kincaid is one of those guys that on an early down, if you just, dump something to him on the flat, he can get you like 4 or 5 yards, and that's helping the offense. And I think you'll see some of that in Foxborough.
Right. I think people want his ADOT, which is his average depth. So, okay, guys, if you ever hear certain things, if you ever have questions, whether it's me, Joe, Eric, Anthony, any one of the guys on Cover One, if you have questions about something that's said, ask, because there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown around there, different, little, code names. ADOT, what that means, if you've never heard of it or don't know what it means average depth of target. So when they talk about like Gabe Davis, his ADOT for the last couple of seasons is one of, if not the highest in the NFL. It means where he catches the ball, right? So his average depth of target when he gets to the ball is like 17 to 20 yards. That means the ball to him is 17 to 20 yards down the field. Dalton Kincaid's average depth of target, his ADOT, it might be somewhere between 5 and 10 yards. And that's fine right now. You can't go with what happened at Utah and extrapolate that and expect that to be what's going to happen in the Bills offense. His role in the Bills offense right now may be different than maybe in 2 years. What they need him for right now is to get the chains moving, and that's what he can do. And the other thing about him is he's slippery. He's very buttery. He's very hard to tackle. You've seen it. So getting him the ball quickly, like Joe was just saying, gives him the opportunity, the operability. That's a new one. Operability. I kind of like that. I'm gonna token that. His ability to get loose and get those yards after the catch, which the Bills need to get better on. So I think in total, if you look at it, Dalton Kincaid will get there. Yeah, 3.5. There you go. Dalton Kincaid's 8 out is 3.5. That's insane. Finally, let's get back to this. We're going to finish up the show here, Joe, because Joe's actually going to be doing some work himself afterwards. Double duty.
Yeah.
Joe, what is your prediction going into this weekend?
Again, any given Sunday, I'll say that over and over again, but I do think that based on what we know about both teams, it is more likely that the Bills would have success in this game. I think given the Patriots offense having a lot of key injuries, or at least their offensive line being what it is, couple that in with the D-line that has been feasting every week, and the Patriots not really having too great of a vertical edge. I do want to mention, I didn't give a lot of credit to Kendrick Bourne. Bourne's really good. I think he's their best receiver. I like watching Kendrick Bourne, and I think they get him involved. However, I think if you could take that away and you just hurry up Mac Jones, I just don't realistically see this Patriots team hanging around long enough to be there by the end of the game. I just think that the Bills are going to find a way to pull their offense together. I think they have a lot to look back on in the Giants game in that second half and build off of and kind of, continue to expand on in this game. Again, being able to implement 12 personnel, having Kincaid and Knox, I saw the comment, and Knox, who is also there playing banged up, is basically the reason why I haven't been talking about him too much, but he is there, he's present, and he'll still get a couple of catches in his way. I think that they are going to really try to lean heavily again on their run being that early down successor, or just play action more. They ran their most under center against the Giants. I think they continue to do it against the Patriots. And the whole idea is to just, make them guess, keep them off balance, and exploit the coverage. I see this game, I want to pull Ant's book and say I won't do a score prediction because of superstition, but I think the Bills win it just based on how I've seen this matchup, and I think they actually win this one big.
Yeah, this is a game that, unfortunately for screw the Patriots. I'm so glad they're bottoming out. This franchise deserves everything that happens to them. The pit of misery is where they belong. And yes, I said that. I've got family in Boston, and I'll call them and tell them that too. Needless to say, yes, I am petty. I'm very petty, guys. I apologize. I think the Bills are going to win big as well, Joe. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think this team is coming off of going to have a full week's rest. There's no hangover from London anymore. I think that did play a role in that Giants game, whether people believe it or not. I truly do. I think this game is a game that Josh wants to get right. I think a lot of these players feel, because like I said earlier, they read what's going on, they hear what's going on. They didn't like the taste that was left in their mouth after that Giants game. They knew they were the better team. And to put out that type of product is embarrassing to them. It's embarrassing to the coaching staff. It's embarrassing to the organization as a whole. I think they're going to go out there, and I think they're going to put, I'm going to say 31-13 against the New England Patriots. I think it's a very decisive win. I think Patriots maybe get a late touchdown when Josh Allen and the rest of the team is sitting on the sideline with ball caps on. I think this is going to be a game that the Bills are going to be really just truly having their way with the Patriots at all levels of the field. And, all three phases are going to be playing the way they should be playing again. Overall, I think it's going to be a good week. But Joey, I truly do appreciate you as always. I know Joey and I have both helped each other many, many times in terms of our shows. But for anybody who doesn't know Joe DeRosa is a fantastic fella, one of my buddies. Joe, where can people find your show?
You can find me every Saturday at 11 a.m. You will find my show Under Review. It is another Bills show, and since you're Bills fans, you should definitely watch it. If you haven't yet, there's some names in here that I see that don't usually tune in. Every Saturday, 11 a.m., I go live, different topic every week. Just been doing previews, but, at the end of every month this season, I am doing an overall season review, something that I think is a lot of fun to kind of look back on how the Bills played, and I think you should all be a part of that. But no, Thomas, I appreciate you having here, man. I'm always happy to join. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, I'll say this. I am also going to be this weekend in Vermont with a bunch of my buddies from college. Now, I went to school in New England. My roommates in college, who I'm very close friends with to this day, majority are fans of New England. I am very excited to watch this game, and I hope that our predictions come true, Thomas. Again, I say it, any given Sunday. Could be a tough game for all we know. Obviously, I will never write every team fully off. However, I am hoping for an absolute banger, like just an absolute dismantling. Like, I want to take the double helix of the Patriots identity and rip it in half and crush it up into little pieces and blow it into the wind and make a wish, because I loathe that franchise more than anything else. But yeah, I'm going to have a lot of fun watching it. And thank you again, Thomas. I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, I'll say this. At the end of the day, I think this is a game that's going to be a lot of fun, a good experience for a lot of people to see the Bills again, truly just bottom out the Patriots. It's one of those things in life that everybody truly enjoys. But I think this is a game that, everybody should be excited about, should be kind of ready to see be over with, right? Like, we could put the Patriots in the right place. One thing I will say, guys, every week I talk about being kind, being nice, things happening because you don't know. This guy right here is a guy named Mike Scrivens, coworker of mine. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Guy is a mailman, worked with my father-in-law. So he's working with my father-in-law and with me. Mike passed away last Friday. He had ruptured aorta a couple weeks ago and tragically passed away. He was on the road to recovery, and a wonderful, wonderful man, a guy that truly exemplified being a kind, good-hearted person. So when I say, guys, all the time, be kind to each other, right? Be nice. Tell each other you love them. Call somebody, tell somebody you don't know. The day before he left, before he had that ruptured aorta, I was talking to him because he's a musician. His band is Cotton Toe. I talked about going to see his show, going out with my family to go visit him and see him perform live. You just don't know. Like I talked about early in the year about my grandfather passing away suddenly. You just don't know. So what I implore of you guys, all you people listening, anybody, if you listen on Spotify later, rewatch the show later, tell somebody you love them. Tell somebody you haven't talked to in a while. Give them a call. Tell them they matter to you. I say it all the time, but you never really know. This stuff happens so suddenly, and it's so important to remember to be kind and love people that are very, very important in your life, or just be nice to a stranger, because sometimes you just don't know what they're going through too. So as always, guys, I truly do appreciate you. I appreciate my brother. I always think I say appreciate too much, but whatever. I appreciate you guys watching Buffalo Late Night, tuning into Cover One. As always, make sure you're sub to the Cover One YouTube channel, to the Cover One Pass. We will be back here next week, next Thursday. The show will be a little bit earlier, probably 6:00, because the Bills are playing on Thursday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Prime time slot, Thomas. Prime time slot. How do you feel about that? That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. I don't know what's going on. But hey, I appreciate all of you guys as always. We will see you guys here next week. This Sunday, let's go ahead and stomp the Patriots. Let's beat them back into oblivion. Send them back to the Stone Age. Guys, I love you. We'll see you here. Let's go Buffalo.
Go Bills.
The Bills make me wanna. The Bills make me wanna.